Right, hello everybody, this is Harry J. Martin and welcome back to some more BeamNG.drive. In today's video we're going to be checking out the Legran Remaster that turned up with the most recent update. There is also a brand new car that we are going to be checking out in another video, but today I'm just going to be looking at this kind of new Legran and messing around with it a little bit. This is one of the faster versions we've got, and it's got the V6 that the Legran has always had, but this thing has a supercharger and all-wheel drive, so it actually makes it quite fun to drive. I know the old Legran was, I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't anything spectacular in terms of driving performance. It was pretty sloppy around the corners, and to be honest this thing is as well, but it was really quite sloppy, and it was just slow as well. So as you can see, this thing has a fair amount of boot. We're pulling quite nicely in third, up to fourth. Yeah, it does drop a little bit until you get back up into those RPMs where the supercharger is actually working a little bit more. But yeah, it's certainly, you know, it certainly gets along nicely, this thing. And with the all-wheel drive, you can actually hold a reasonable little slide. I mean, it doesn't quite have the power to break all four of those wheels loose on demand, but you know, you can certainly have your fun, no problem. Like you say, I was having to use the clutch a fair bit there to kind of keep the revs up. Although, you know, if you get the right gear, you can certainly slide this thing around a little bit. Now, obviously, this thing is no, like, beast around the track or anything. You can see it still wallows about in the corners a little bit, and there's that Legran understeer that's always been there. It's still pretty prominent, but certainly a lot more fun to drive than it used to be. Right, I think it's about time we crashed this thing, so that kind of little pole there looks quite good. Okay, this thing could have a second job at pole dancing. That was a real nice twirl around that. And yeah, well, this thing is completely destroyed. The engine is, well, it's just broken after that, which is probably what you'd expect. Another cool little feature is the J-beam appears when you're kind of, you know, dragging the vehicle back to where it's previously been, as opposed to, you know, the actual kind of little faded outline of the car that it used to be. I prefer the little J-beam looking kind of thing there. Now, I'm not quite well versed enough in like American cars of this era, which is what, like the early 90s I'd say for this thing, maybe late 80s. But it, you know, it reminds me of kind of a GM product of that era, you know, pretty basic, nothing too amazing around the corners, and really kind of overshadowed by the Japanese market of that time. I know a lot of Americans will get quite angry with me for saying that. However, I must say, you know, American cars of that time, they were, you know, very plasticky and stuff, but they were also very comfortable and affordable, and, you know, they got you from A to B fairly well, so I should probably stop trashing them since I don't own a massive car company. Anyway, another crash here. See how it does this time. And, well, the engine has made its way into the passenger footwell, which I can't imagine would be very comfortable, but then again, you'd probably be dead after going that fast anyway. Also, I don't know about anyone else, but this kind of red interior with the black exterior, it does remind me of Mike's car from Breaking Bad. I don't know about anyone else, a little bit random, but I don't know, something about the red interior just reminds me of his car. I suppose this would be a good place to see how quick we can get up to here. I don't intend on braking for the next corner, so let's see. I'm guessing about 130 is my guess, but then again, once we get into fifth, the RPMs will drop, and we may run out of boost a little bit. Saying that, I don't even know if this thing has a fifth gear. It seems to be topping out in fourth. But there we go, bang on 130, or 131 now, of course it has to disprove me. That's a little wall ride as well to finish things off. Right then, I must say, I think the coolest part about this new Legran Remaster is the fact that we now have a wagon. And yes, I'm only going to call it a wagon once, just to keep the Americans happy. But yeah, I'm glad BeamNG have finally implemented an estate car. I mean, the ETK something series is a little bit estate car-ish, but it's not, you know, the kind of classic boxy estate car that we all know and love, you know, the Volvo-esque kind of thing. I think when you think estate car, at least from a European perspective, you do think Volvo. I know Americans have had various companies do, you know, station wagons over the years, but when I think estate car, I must say I do think Volvo. But, you know, from a BeamNG point of view, I'm glad they've finally got one. I know a lot of people have wanted a proper boxy, old school kind of estate car in BeamNG for a while, so I'm glad they've finally added one. But Anyway, I think the perfect way to test this thing out is a little bit of a caravan holiday. Right, we've got the caravan attached. Now, this is the V6 wagon, and unfortunately there aren't really any sporty versions. There is like a Fire Chief version, I believe, but this is kind of the fastest one, I think, the V6 like SE version. It would be nice if they had one with a manual transmission and a little bit more boot, but, you know, they don't, unfortunately. At least not, you know, it's not a pre-made vehicle for you. You can upgrade this thing, give it a little supercharger and, you know, obviously all the racing parts, which does make it quite cool, but, you know, for doing normal estate car things, this thing seems to be perfectly adequate. It's pulling this caravan no problem. I must say, I do think it's sad what's happened to the estate car. You don't see many manufacturers kind of promoting the estate cars anymore. They don't seem to make them very much. It has been, you know, as with a lot of silhouettes of cars, it's kind of been replaced by the crossover, which is really sad, because I'd much rather have a good old estate car than a crossover. I don't think I could actually bring myself to buy a crossover unless it was like a RAV4 or something. I mean, you know, those old Toyotas, they were quite good, the RAV4. I'd say that was one of the first kind of crossovers. It was actually just a mini kind of off-road car, you know, a smaller Land Cruiser from Toyota, but then obviously everyone else got the idea that, oh yeah, hang on, we can give this two-wheel drive and have all the apparent benefits of an SUV in a smaller package. I mean, the Nissan Juke, like, what is that, you know? Honestly, I just can't stand looking at those things. But yeah, anyway, we've got a bit of snaking going on here. Quite bad snaking, actually. Anyway, I think what we should try and do is loop us way back round to the little campsite we started at. Okay, maybe that's not going to happen. Yeah, that's gone quite badly wrong. All the blue stuff will have gone out of the toilet and you'd never want to spend another night in that. Right then, I'm happy to report that the Legran now has its own little rally car, and previously it didn't, and I think the reason for that was it was only front-wheel drive beforehand. And I always thought that the Legran had looked really like good, like old-school rally, you know, with the rally livery, you know, just as a rally car. But like I say, it didn't make sense with the front-wheel drive before, but now we've got the all-wheel drive. I'm happy to report it does make one hell of a rally car. Feels really balanced, and the fact that it's got a supercharged V6 makes the power delivery nice and linear, so, you know, it's quite predictable when it comes to trying to slide it around a corner or something similar. I will say, compared with like the Sunburst rally car, it is, you know, fairly underpowered. I mean, it, you know, it pulls its own weight, fair enough, but comparing it with, you know, like the Sunburst rally, it's quite slow. I'd say this thing feels a little bit faster than the Pessima rally car, so, you know, it's kind of in that kind of range of performance. But nevertheless, it feels really good, and like I say, that supercharger on the V6 makes the power delivery nice and predictable. Right then, we've got the race version here, so I guess we should give this thing a little lap, see how it does. I'm trying to think about what car I'd try and compare this to in terms of race versions. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell just by doing that one corner. I want to say like a 200BX race version, but I think that could be wishful thinking, at least in terms of kind of straight line speed. It doesn't quite have the boot, this thing, out of the corners like that does, but saying that, it's still pretty darn quick. Pretty darn quick. I do want to just quickly address the fact that I did say darn in one of my videos. I'm highly embarrassed, and I will be locking myself in a dark room for 2 weeks as per punishment. Once again, that V6, you know, with the supercharger, it's really easy to judge how much power you're getting at any one time. There's no worry about, you know, turbo spooling up randomly and, you know, spinning your rear out or anything like that. It's quite easy to drive. Anyway, we're up to about 120 here in 5th. I'm hoping we've got a 6th, because it looks like we could use it. Yeah, I don't want to be redlining. There we go. Nice to see a 6th gear there. Holding the road quite nicely going through there. I know some cars do get a little bit kind of light on the steering at that kind of speed, but this thing feels pretty damn good. And this corner always gets me. What is going on? I hate this corner with a passion. I really don't like it. There we go. We made it round. It wasn't the cleanest of corners, but it wasn't too bad. Anyway, a good test for these brakes here. very, very good. I don't really know what I expected. I kind of thought they might lock up or something, but got on them a bit early, to be honest, through there. You do find a little bit of understeer, but it's really quite good around the corner in terms of just getting on that power a little bit midway through your corner. Wrong gear there, could have probably got through there a bit quicker. Done pretty well around the track, and overall my opinion on the kind of Legran Remaster is very good. I really like what they've done with it, and it's kind of made it a car that you want to pick a little bit more often. That's going to do it for today's video. This has been Harry J. Martin. Please do consider dropping a like or perhaps a subscribe, and I shall see you all in the next video you watch, provided it's one of mine. Goodbye.